We will try and complete the 11th standard outline discussion of the syllabus map today. Oh, you have watched 12th trailer. Nobody is in that state, no? So if that is possible, in reality, that's a real story. All of you know that. So if that is possible, all of you are much better than me in the starting point. And what you are all doing is what we did for a few years. That's all. One of my masters always keeps telling me, I'm fortunate to have a good number of masters who guide me. Whenever I am stuck, my masters will come to my rescue. Everybody is capable of getting whatever they want. Irrespective of what you want. You want to become the Prime Minister, you want to become whatever. Doesn't matter what, doesn't matter, but you are capable of getting what you want. The question is, do you have the patience and the perseverance to keep working until you reach there? Why most people don't get? Because they give up somewhere. That doesn't mean you can be complacent and keep working forever. You cannot be a postgraduate in one of the universities till 40, 45, 50. Keep putting your best effort to reach. And to cross 600, this is enough. 235 days more. And you have better your performance in less than 50 days. Your performance has improved in less than 50 days. I will start being worried about your performance post October 31st. By October 31st, your baseline will get stabilized. Okay? So from then on, we need to see gradual improvement and moving towards 600. We will reach 600 eventually. By end of December, most of you should be able to cross 400 to 500. 400 to 500 you will be crossing consistently by end of December. That's all. February, March, all of you should hit 600 plus consistently. So that you stop taking tests on March 31st. March 31st is your last test. April, you will revise with confidence. It will happen for everybody. Don't get dejected with whatever scores you have taken. Alright? We'll work. And in the next decade or so, you will realize NEET was the easiest challenge that you faced. NEET UG was the easiest challenge that you faced. So it's like from the pan to the fire. But let's get out of the pan first. We'll figure out how to deal with fire later. All of you work on quickly memorizing this and you will see how your scores will suddenly start improving. Read this, go through this. I have shared it. I have advanced it by more than a month. Looking at the pace of notes taking by all of you, I have instructed all the teachers to start giving you their notes quickly. Alright, this month you will get the syllabus map of every subject and you are supposed to complete all your perspective notes by October 31st. By November 20th, you will get all of those notes from all the teachers. So, I will put my team to work on editing all that, editing all those things and not the soft copies. We will see and give you printed copies of syllabus map, level 1 notes and perspective notes. You should not get complacent and stop doing it. Okay? If you stop doing it with an assumption that you will anyways get it, you will fail. Alright, your success is dependent on you trying to do everything that you are supposed to do, and then when you get it, you know how to use it. Trust me, if you don't attempt, you will not be able to use. Okay? You have got all material, you would have got books and bundles of all coaching institute materials. That did not help. No? It will help you if you are capable of doing that. If you are capable of creating something, something that has been given to you will be useful. If you are not capable of creating it, you will not be capable of using it. Okay, trust me on this. So don't relax or be complacent and reduce the intensity of preparing your own notes. Do it and use the notes given by us eventually. Respiration in plants. See, respiration in plants, respiration in humans, similar. Respiration in plants, what is the definition of respiration? Respiration is, if you look at it in human context, respiration is not breathing. Respiration is the oxidative breakdown of organic matter. Why? To release energy. Why do you want to release energy? To fix that energy into usable currencies. The usable currency for any living system is high energy compounds like ATP, NADPH, FADH and similar ones. So oxidative breakdown of organic substances to release energy. Role of respiration in plants. Plants release energy by oxidizing food in the form of glucose, proteins or fat. What do you call the measure of energy released by the breakdown of different nutrients? What is the term for that? Respiratory quotient. Respiratory quotient. Respiratory quotient is the energy released by the oxidation of how much? 1 kg of the nutrient? How much of the nutrient? Respiratory quotient. Respiratory quotient is what? Respiratory quotient is how much carbon dioxide is released to how much oxygen is used. But energy dependency, energy release, what is that? How much energy is released by the oxidation of 1 gram of any particular nutrient. That is referred to as calorific value, not respiratory quotient. Respiratory quotient is whether something uses more oxygen or uses less oxygen compared to carbon dioxide production, in relation to carbon dioxide production. That is respiratory quotient. Correct? Energy release is calorific value. And what is the measure of any particular source of energy, like any carbohydrate being made available in the blood for utilization? A measure of how fast glucose produced by the breakdown of carbohydrates is entering into the blood. What is that? It is abbreviated as GI. GI. If you want to advise diabetic patients, or if you want to advise somebody who needs weight management, you will advise them to eat carbohydrates which have low GI. You will see this being advertised. On various food packets. Low GI. What is low GI? GI means what? Respiratory quotient, calorific value, GI. These are 3 measures. Measure of something. Glycemic index. No? Glycemic index. So when you are reading these things, you will have to put all of these together. What are all the different measures? Reference to some measurement. These 3 you remember. Respiratory quotient, glycemic index, calorific value. Respiratory quotient is related to respiration. That is also about oxidation of different chemicals which leads to the production of carbon dioxide by utilizing oxygen. How much oxygen is utilized to carbon dioxide produced? That is the respiratory quotient. Calorific value is how much energy is produced by the breakdown of 1 gram of a particular nutrient. What is the calorific value of carbohydrate? There are 3 energy producing nutrients that we consume: carbohydrates, lipids and proteins. These 3 produces energy, these 3 releases energy for our utilization. So our body will break down carbohydrates, lipids and proteins. Which one is broken down first? Which one is broken down first? See, there is one more mechanism. Suppose I don't eat food for a while. I stop eating food. What will happen? If I start starving, what will happen? Body needs energy. What will it start breaking down first? It will start breaking down glycogen first. It breaks down glycogen. Then, after glycogen is broken down, lipids, fats from adipose tissue. Fats from adipose tissue. Then, adipose tissue is also eaten up. It's also broken down. I am still not eating. I am starving for 25 days. Adipose tissue is over. Then, protein from muscles. Then finally, lipids from neurons. The myelin sheath also will start getting eaten up. That is when, in the later stages of starvation, if somebody is not eating, in the later stages of starvation, a person will start developing delirium, hallucinations, new nervous system symptoms. The person will start hallucinating, you will have delirium, you will have lot of psychological disturbances, irritability, restlessness. All the neurological symptoms will start appearing because myelin sheath start getting eaten. So there is a protein safeguarding mechanism. Protein safeguarding mechanism. Protein will not be used up initially. Protein will be used up after the adipose tissue has been used up. Proteins will be protected. But lipids will not be used up completely before proteins are being used. Adipose tissue is used up, then proteins will be used up, and finally, to ensure survival, lipids from neurons will be used. Because if lipids come before proteins in the utilization, there are lipids in nervous system also. There are lipids in the brain also. Lot of fat is there in the brain. All the neurons, axons have myelin sheath. Myelinated neurons have myelin sheath, which is also fat, lipid. So you understand that? That sequence of integral. Yes. So 3 things to remember: respiratory quotient, calorific value, glycemic index. Questions can be on all these 3. Questions have come on all these 3. What is the, why should we be bothered? Respiratory quotient significance. What is the significance of respiratory quotient? If something has high respiratory quotient, what does that mean? Is it carbon dioxide produced over oxygen used, or oxygen used over carbon dioxide produced? What is in the numerator for respiratory quotient? Carbon dioxide produced. That means something which is using more oxygen per carbon dioxide produced, respiratory quotient will be less. So based on the respiratory quotient, you can identify what a particular compound is. Carbohydrates have what respiratory? Let's not go there. Carbohydrates have some respiratory quotient. Ketones have some respiratory quotient. Alright? You should know the value for it. Questions have come. If the respiratory quotient of a particular organic compound upon oxidation is so and so, what can be that compound? There will be 4 options. So you should know that. Alright? We will not go into those details right now. Role of respiration in plants. Plants release energy by oxidizing food in the form of glucose, proteins or fats. Do plants breathe? Do plants breathe? If we consider breathing as taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide, do plants do that? They do. They do, except for the mesophyll cells in the leaves or other green parts of the plant, where chloroplast is present. Everywhere else, every other cell utilizes oxygen for respiration. Every cell requires energy. Every cell utilizes oxygen for oxidative phosphorylation and releases carbon dioxide. Absence of specialized respiratory organs. Stomata leaves lenticels in stems, allows gases to diffuse in and out. Do we find lenticels in young stems? Do we find lenticels in young stems? What is the condition in which you will find lenticels on stems? What kind of plants do you find lenticels on stems? What are lenticels? What are lenticels? If you see a tree on the trunk there is what? Bark. In the bark there are breaks. It is broken, it is slit. There are slits in the bark. If you observe deeply, observe closely, there will be exposed tissue on the inside of that slits. Lenticels are those cells which are exposed to the surrounding atmosphere, which can do gas exchange with the surrounding. Bark is impermeable to gases. The bark is impermeable to gases. That is, outside of the bark is bark. Correct? Bark, cambium. Then what do you have? In the bark, there are 3 layers. What are the 3 layers in bark? Bark, cambium, and secondary cortex. If you want to tell in terms of the technical terms, bark is referred as phellem. Phellem is bark. Cork is fellow, derm. Cambium is fellow, gen. Secondary cortex is phellem, fellow-derm, fellow-gen, phellem. Cork, cambium, and secondary cortex. So, in which of these layers would you find the lenticels? The break is in all the 3 layers. The breaking is in all the 3 layers of the bark. Or the bark is broken open to allow for the exposure of these cells on the inside. The breach is in the bark. It might go deeper into the bark also. Secondary cortex and the cork cambium, they are all living cells. They are living cells which can do gas exchange. Alright? So lenticels are the structures which are present on the outer surface of the stem of plants which have secondary growth, which will allow gas exchange. So gas exchange should happen for respiration. Where all gas exchange happens? Stomata in leaves and lenticels in stems. Can we equate both of them? Are they similar? Stomata and lenticels, are they similar? Stomata allows gas exchange by opening and closing of the guard cells. It is a passage. Stomata is a passage. Lenticels is not passage, it is a layer of cells with thin membranes, with the thin walls, which can allow for diffusion of gases across the wall, across the membranes. Okay? There is no mechanism of some cells opening up and allowing entry of gases. But stomata is a passage. The guard cells, because of turgor pressure. What is the turgor pressure? See, again, there also you will have to remember water potential, pressure potential, turgor potential, pressure and potential difference. Water potential and pressure. If there are 2 systems, system A with water potential 10 and system B with water potential 20, movement of water will be from A to B or B to A. A has water potential 10, B has water potential 20. Movement of water will be from B to A, from water potential 20 to water potential 10. You all agree? No. A to B, water potential 10 to water potential 20. So water moves from the area of low water potential to high water potential. Or let us say, this is fun. I love digging on confusing things. Alright. So if A has osmotic pressure 10 and B has osmotic pressure 20, water will move from A to B or B to A. This is this way. A, B. B to A. So water moves from osmotic pressure 20 to osmotic pressure 10. So higher osmotic pressure to lower osmotic pressure. What about potential? If A has water potential 10 and B has water potential 20, movement will be from A to B. That means water potential and osmotic pressure are inversely related. Higher the water potential, lower the osmotic pressure. When you get these questions, during transportation questions, pressure and potential, remember this. Potential is the ability to pull. Pressure is the ability to push. Okay? If you have great potential, you will pull people towards you. If you are under tremendous pressure, you will push people away from you. Okay? People will not take a stay with you. Osmotic potential or water potential is the ability of the water molecules to move from a particular system to another system. Potential is the ability of the water molecules. When we talk about pressure, osmotic pressure is related to what the solutes are doing to the fluid. If there is high osmotic pressure, the osmotic potential will be low, or the water potential will be low. High osmotic pressure is because of more solutes. If there are more solutes, what will it do to water molecules? Will it allow water molecules to escape? It will catch hold of water molecules. It will bind water molecules and prevent water molecules from crossing the semi-permeable membrane. Correct? So, water potential will become low. If you have low osmotic pressure, that means the solutes are holding on to less water molecules, meaning more water molecules are free to cross. Potential is a measure of the ability of water molecules to cross the semi-permeable membrane. Pressure is a measure of how strongly the water molecules are held. Okay? Pressure potential. Pressure potential. So if a system is under pressure, there are two systems, A and B. One of the system is subjected to external pressure. Now, does this increase the ability of water molecules in this system to cross over to the other system across the membrane, or decrease the ability of water to cross over? If you exert pressure, this will increase the ability of water to cross. Correct? So pressure potential, higher the pressure potential, more the ability of water to move from that system to another system. You will see that. Okay? Remember those. There are straightforward questions and there are questions which will test you on your understanding. Potential and pressure, osmosis, diffusion, these forces. You can twist it. The same thing can be told in a different way. Respiratory quotient, calorific value, glycemic index, similar appearing things with different meanings in different contexts. Those are the things you have to put together. When you are making notes, such things have to be put together and looked at in comparison. Then you will develop clarity. Even if there are 4 or 5 questions like that, out of the 90 questions that you will face, even if 5 questions are like that, 20 marks is a significant advantage when you are on the higher side of the scale. Alright? So, and easy to get that. Good number of students will get it wrong. You gain advantage. Alright? Performance in exams is not just about how much you slog. It's about strategy. You have to strategically work so that every minute that you put in is becoming more productive for your performance. Knowledge acquisition, yes. Knowledge is the basis of your performance, but you have to practice for performance. That is what you are doing during your tests. Sitting for 3 hours, trying to stay awake for 3 hours. Okay? That's a challenge, no, still. Trying to stay awake for 3 hours is a big challenge. Unfortunately, today you have a 5:30 to 8:30 class. Otherwise, 5:30 to 8:30 somehow you can drowse off, you can doze off and wake up and look here and there. But now you are being watched. Cellular respiration in plants, diffusion of oxygen in and carbon dioxide out during respiration in all plant cells. Cytoplasm of the cell, steps of glycolysis, phosphorylation of glucose, isomerization of glucose 6-phosphate, and from there breakdown to pyruvate. Can you recall the steps? Let's try. You have done this. You have memorized it once upon a time. Okay, glucose gets phosphorylated to glucose 6-phosphate. Then isomerization, glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate. Then again kinase reaction, phosphorylation, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Then split, aldolase. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Dihydroxyacetone phosphate becomes glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, isomerization. Then phosphorylation. Phosphorylation not by kinase now, it is by dehydrogenase. G3P dehydrogenase becomes 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate. Then remove phosphate, 3-phosphoglycerate. Then isomerization, 2-phosphoglycerate. Then enolization. Phosphoglycerate is an aldehyde. Now it has to be converted into an enol form. What is the enol form that it gets converted to? Phosphoenol pyruvate. Finally, pyruvate. Pyruvate gets decarboxylated. In oxidative decarboxylation becomes acetyl CoA. 1 carbon gone. Acetyl CoA enters Krebs cycle, combines with oxaloacetate, becomes citrate, then isocitrate. In between there is one, don't bother, say succinylase is there, isocitrate. Isocitrate becomes alpha ketoglutarate. Alpha ketoglutarate, in this process 1 carbon is gone. So alpha ketoglutarate is a 5 carbon compound. Then alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl CoA. Succinyl CoA synthase, again 1 carbon gone, it becomes 4 carbon compound. Then succinate, then becomes easy. SFM, succinate, fumarate, malate, then oxaloacetate. That's all. All carbon removed, energy harnessed, done. All reactions of glycolysis and Krebs cycle, like I gave you. You have to remember the enzymes, energy dependent enzymes, odd man out questions, which one will produce ATP, which one will produce NADPH. If it is a kinase, it will produce ATP. Okay? If it is a dehydrogenase, it is associated with NADH or FADH2. Okay? So, in glycolysis, kinase reactions are irreversible reactions. In glycolysis, irreversible reactions are all kinase reactions. Alright, in Krebs cycle, citrate synthase, that is formation of citrate, and the 2 reactions where carbon is kicked out. Those are the 3 irreversible reactions. Important, you cannot forget this. Logically fix it in your mind so you will remember. If I can remember sequence and names, anybody can remember sequence and names. Alright, names, numbers, not numbers, dates. Names and dates, I can't remember. Last year I forgot my parents' wedding anniversary. father is also a doctor. They stay in another place. So on the day of their wedding anniversary, my mother came. She had made sweets, gulab jamun, on full box of gulab jamun, 30-40 gulab jamuns. I went, I ate some 4-5 custards, and I was asking her, what's special about today? You have made gulab jamuns? And I went off. And suddenly I remembered, I did not remember my life immediately. I don't want to talk about the consequences. So, you can't afford to forget some important dates. They are like irreversible reactions. Alright, you forget important dates, then you damage irreversibly. Okay. Fortunately, no such physical damages happen. Okay. Fermentation, types of fermentation: alcoholic fermentation, lactic acid fermentation. Alcoholic fermentation, pyruvic acid converted to ethanol and carbon dioxide in anaerobic conditions. This is what happens in breweries. Glucose or anything that is provided is fermented into alcohol in breweries where you are manufacturing alcohol. Lactic acid fermentation, pyruvic acid converted to lactic acid during anaerobic respiration. In biological systems, in our body, if there is shortage of oxygen availability, pyruvate will not go into alcohol fermentation. Pyruvate will go into lactic acid fermentation in the muscles and various cells. Alright. Lactic acid is not good for the cell's metabolism. So accumulation of lactic acid will trigger a feedback mechanism to the brain, leading to brain initiating decreased activity. Brain will tell you to stop working. Whatever you are doing, which is increasing the oxygen demand that your body is not able to supply, brain will put a shutdown on that. It will make you experience pain, and that pain will make you reduce activity, thereby reducing the demand for oxygen which your body can supply. Whatever lactic acid would have got accumulated will be cleared off over a period of time, and your pain reduces. That is why you experience cramps in your under your ribs when you are over exercising. If you run, and if you run suddenly, you will start experiencing cramps. Why? Abdominal muscles are working hard, diaphragm is working hard because you are breathing very shallow. You have not trained your body to breathe deep and supply more oxygen during high intensity work. Suddenly there is high intensity work, your lungs is not accommodated, your heart is not accommodated. So supply of oxygen is not met. The overworking muscles will start accumulating lactic acid because of anaerobic respiration. Lactic acid triggers pain as a feedback mechanism. You stop running. Then once you stop running, you are shallow breathing. If you have noticed, when you start developing this cramp, once you stop running or you stop doing that activity and your breathing becomes deep suddenly. You start breathing deep, and that deep breathing coupled with reduced activity will compensate for the gap. Your oxygen supply is restored, demand is reduced, lactic acid gets cleared, pain reduces, and you are ready to go again. What happens when you train your body? When you do aerobic activities. Aerobic activities is jumping, jogging, running. Those kind of activities when you do, your lungs will get accommodated to oxygenate more blood. Your heart is accommodated to pump more blood. Its cardiac output increases, its cardiac rate comes down, rate of heartbeat comes down, heart rate comes down. So in athletes, if you see, for all of us, the normal heart rate would be about 72 beats per minute. Around 70 to 80 is the normal resting heart rate for most of the people. But if you check the resting heart rate for seasoned athletes, their resting heart rate would be around 60. That is not bradycardia. Bradycardia is a reference to low heart rate. What is a reference to high heart rate? If bradycardia means low heart rate, what is high heart rate called? Tachycardia. Okay. Similarly, with lower rate of respiration is bradypnea. Tachypnea is high rate of respiration. Brady and tachy, B-R-A-D-Y, T-A-C-H-Y, they are opposites. Wherever you find brady, it means lesser. Tachy, T-A-C-H-Y, means higher. Those opposites you should know. So anything prefixed with brady means lesser of that. Alright. Hypo, hyper. Penia, cytosis. Leukopenia, leukocytosis. Penia means it will generally be referring to low count. Erythrocytopenia means what? What is erythrocytopenia? Reduced RBC count. Erythrocytosis means what? Increased RBC count. Okay. Leukocytopenia, WBC count is reduced. Leukocytosis, WBC count is increased. So penia and cytosis, opposites. Brady and tachy, opposites. Aerobic respiration, Krebs cycle, pyruvate is converted to acetyl, all of that we know. TCA cycle or tricarboxylic acid cycle, citric acid cycle, Krebs cycle, all of those are names for the same thing. Can you recall energy balance sheet for glycolysis Krebs cycle? How many ATPs are produced in glycolysis? Total ATPs produced, total ATPs used, and net ATP only. How many ATPs are produced? 4 ATPs are produced. How many ATPs are used? 2 ATPs are used. So net ATP only production is 2 ATP, 2 NADH. 1 NADH is equivalent to 3 ATP. So net energy production is equal to energy of 8 ATPs. Energy of 8 ATPs. This is all theoretical. That is not how much is available in actual living systems, but let it be. In oxidative decarboxylation, for every pyruvate to acetyl CoA, what do we get? 1 NADH. That means 1 plus 1 for every glucose. 6 ATP equivalent energy from oxidative decarboxylation. Then in Krebs cycle, 3 NADH, 1 FADH2, 1 GDP. So for one cycle of Krebs cycle, 3 into 3, 9, plus 2 into 1, 11, plus 1 GDP, 12. 12 ATP equivalent energy for every cycle of Krebs cycle. How many times Krebs cycle will run per glucose? Twice. So 12 plus 12, 24. The energy balance sheet is 8 plus 6 plus 12, 24. 38. Okay. All this should be at your fingertips. Respiratory quotient. In electron transport chain of aerobic respiration, oxygen is the terminal electron acceptor. Who are the electron donors? In electron transport chain, electron donors. Electron donors. NADH donates to which complex? Complex 1. NADH, dehydrogenase complex. Okay. FADH2 donates to complex 2. Proton pumping happens in which complexes? Complex 1, 3, 4. Alright. Terminal electron acceptor, oxygen. Terminal electron acceptor, oxygen. Respiratory quotient. Carbon dioxide produced to oxygen consumed. Varies with the type of substrate used. Carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Ketones also. Ketones have the lowest respiratory quotient, 0.7. 0.7 is for ketones, 0.9 is for I think lipids. Proteins and carbohydrates, respiratory quotient is 1. This cross check with that. Amphibolic pathway. What is amphibolic pathway? substrates or compound chemicals which are part of both catabolic and anabolic pathway. Alright? Both catabolic and anabolic pathway. They are respiratory intermediates. Intermediates of respiration can also be used in the biosynthesis of other molecules. See, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, G3P, is a catabolic product of glycolysis. Correct? Fructose 1,6-bisphosphate is broken down to produce G3P and what is the other one? DHAP. Both are aldehydes. G3P can be used for producing lipids. Lipids are made from what? Glycerol and fatty acids. Glyceraldehyde can be converted into glycerol to be used for coupling with fatty acid to produce lipids. So when G3P becomes a part of lipogenesis or lipid synthesis pathway, G3P is participating in an anabolic process, whereas G3P was produced in a catabolic process. You understand? G3P was produced by the breakdown of 1,3-DPG, 1,3-bisphosphate, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. So it is a byproduct of a catabolic pathway, goes into an anabolic pathway. So G3P is an intermediate, or G3P can be considered as something which is participating in an amphibolic pathway. It is an amphibolic intermediate. Okay? So those things. Anyways. Is this pace and format of discussion okay? No? Not able to follow? Anybody having problem in following? These are all things that we have already discussed, so I am just going here and there and doing. I wouldn't know whether you are finding it difficult to follow or not unless you express. So if you are not following something, stop me, ask me to repeat. When I repeat you don't understand, stop me, ask again. I will find some other way to tell you. Alright. So repetition with me is not repeating the same thing again and again. Repetition with me is trying to tell the same thing in a different way. Okay. So that will help. If you don't raise interruptions and tell me that you are not understanding, I will not be able to figure out, and I will keep continuing until somebody raises objection or raises interruption. So it is on you, the onus is on you to ensure that you understand. Alright? Don't just sit without understanding. Every bit of discussion that we are having is important. You have a right and a responsibility and a duty to understand. You have the right to understand, so you have the right to interrupt if you don't understand. And it's your duty to understand. Factors affecting respiration. Temperature influences enzyme activity. Rate of respiration increases with temperature, decreases under water stress. This is with plants. Water stress we are talking about plants. Plant growth and development. Growth and development, you need to understand the difference. What is the difference between growth and development? Growth is adding on to the number of cells, increasing the number of cells or the mass of cells, biomass. Increase in biomass is growth. Development is becoming functional. Okay? Vocal cords grow with the child. The child grows with the vocal cords. Tongue is also grown. But why when the child starts speaking, the speech develops. It is not growth of speech. It is development of speech. Correct? There is tongue. There is no half tongue, no? When the child is born, the child has a full tongue. Certainly the child has vocal cords. No doubt about it. Alright? Because the range of voice outreach of a child is in hundreds of meters. The radius of voice reach is hundreds of meters. Alright. The only person I am afraid of is my daughter. She's 2 years old. She screams and I suddenly black out. I don't know what to do. Okay. So I am 100% sure about the vocal cords. Speech develops over time. Growth is increase in biomass, either by increasing the size or increase in the number of cells. Both are considered to be growth. So we can safely assume growth to be increase in biomass. Development is whatever is becoming functional is development. Okay? When it starts doing what it is supposed to do, that is development. Irreversible increase in size, weight or volume of a plant, that is growth. Phases of growth, this is important. Meristematic phase, elongation phase, maturation phase. So you can get these diagrams and asking you to identify the different parts of a growing root. There is zones of a growing root. Meristematic zone is right above the root cap. Then you have the elongation zone and then you have the maturation zone. So there is no function that is seen in the elongation zone and the meristematic zone. Meristematic zone cells are only dividing. Elongation zone is the cells that are getting pushed upwards, or in this case root going downwards. The meristematic zone is going downwards. So the elongation zone becomes the zone where cells are transforming into functional cells. Alright? So meristematic cells and permanent cells. Meristematic cells do not have function. Permanent cells do not have division. Alright? Permanent cells do not have division. Meristematic cells do not have any other function other than division. Meristematic cells becoming permanent cells. What do you call it? What do you call the transformation of meristematic cells to permanent cells? Differentiation. Permanent cells becoming meristematic cells. De-differentiation. De-differentiated meristematic cells becoming permanent cells again. De-differentiation. Remember, addiction, de-addiction, re-addiction. Okay. So you don't call meristematic cells becoming permanent cells as de-differentiation unless those meristematic cells were already de-differentiated meristematic. Okay. Meristematic phase, elongation phase, maturation phase. Characteristics of growth. Open growth. Growth is continuous and measurable. Indeterminate growth. Plants can grow throughout life. Unlike animals, there is no end to the growth of plants. But there are limiting factors which will limit how much the plant grows. Alright? One reference to plant growth is a good reference for human beings also to grow. Plants grow literally. Human beings have to take it metaphorically. How tall a plant can grow? The height of growth for a plant is determined by what? So how expanded the shoot system can be is determined by how deep the root is, the root system is. So the deeper you grow, the deeper you go, the taller you grow. Alright, the deeper you go, the taller you grow. That is the success principle that you have to learn from plants. Whatever you do in life, if you go deeper and deeper into it, that will make you grow taller and taller. Most of the people are herbs and shrubs. Only a few people are tall trees. Why? These fellows have not gone deep, superficial. Those fellows have invested time in going deep. And the more deeper you go, you gain access to resources which the superficial fellows don't have. Okay? Survival is access to resources. The more access you have to resources, the more survivability you have, and life is designed to thrive around better survivability. You become more valuable to people because you have access to more resources. It is not selfishness. That is how life is designed. That is how evolution has designed everybody. Why people flock successful people? Why nobody is around you when you are not successful, and the same people will flock towards you when you are successful? Is it because they were selfish, they were mean when you are not successful, and they are selfish when you are successful? Nature has designed people like that. Every creature is designed like that. Access to resources is what every creature wants. And if you are the source of access, then you will have more and more people flocking towards you. Alright, that is evolution. So, how will you have access to resources? Whatever you do, you grow deeper and deeper and deeper. Invest the time in growing deep. Why did not the herb grow deep? On the surface it was getting everything. It was getting minerals on the surface, topsoil. The herb said, hey, all the minerals are in the topsoil. Why should I go deep? I am getting enough minerals already. Water is also on the topsoil. In the topsoil I am getting enough. Sunlight is anyways on the top. I am getting it. Carbon dioxide available. I am getting my salary boss every month. Why should I worry? I am having food. I am having good shelter. I have a car. I have bought house on EMI. My salary is taken care of. My company pays me 3 days of paid holiday also, so that I work for the 363 days again. Why should I bother to build entrepreneurial skills? Why should I bother to build leadership skills? Look at you, you have been struggling for 10 years. You are working double than me. You are struggling for 10 years. What you have is lesser than what I get by working for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I have 2 days of enjoyment on weekends. You don't have weekend, you don't have family time, you don't have anything. You only keep working like a donkey. You are a Chinese bamboo. You know the Chinese bamboo story? No? Nobody knows Chinese bamboo. Alright. You know bamboo is very fast growing plant. Harvesting is very fast. You can harvest bamboo every 6 months. Every 6 to 8 months you can harvest bamboo and you can sell it. It's a very profitable cultivation. It's a cash crop. Bamboo is a cash crop. A and B, friends, they had 2 plots of land. A planted the regular bamboo, B planted the Chinese bamboo. Within a year, this fellow started harvesting. 1 year has passed, this fellow, there is not even a sprout from the soil. But he goes every day, takes care of the soil, nurtures the soil, all of that. This fellow is laughing at him. Look, I have already got 2 harvest. I have already got 2 harvest. You are still nurturing the plant. Second year, he gets another 2 harvest. Third year, he gets another 2 harvest. First year he started harvesting. After 1 year he started harvesting. For the next 4 years, he has already got 8 harvests. 8 harvests. This fellow's bamboo started sprouting in 1 year. I mean 5 years. Started sprouting. This fellow is laughing. Your plant is now coming. It's coming out now. You know what? This grows at a rate of 50 centimeters per day. You can harvest once in 2 to 3 weeks. That fellow has harvested 8 harvests in 4 years. In the next 6 months, he would harvest the 9th one. This fellow would harvest, let's say 1 month, harvesting in a month, 6 harvests. In the next 6 months, another 6 harvests. He would have got 12 harvests in the 6th year. His total harvest in 6 years would be 10. After that, don't even bother to compare. And then you will start telling you are very lucky. You are very lucky. Takes that much time. Okay. Plants are great teachers. They are the greatest inspiration. They can't move. When it is a sapling, you see big trees. Think about its life when it started sprouting and it came out of the soil. Even the smallest of animal can stamp it and just gone. So whatever is on top of the soil is gone. It has to come out again. Come out again. It would have grown some 1 or 2 feet tall. Some small animal will come eat it off. Go. Some small child will come, pull it off. Gone. Have you ever seen when you pull out a small plant, does it get pulled out till the last millimeter of its root? It gets broken at the surface. What does that mean? It is still there. It is still growing and growing and growing and growing. How much time it would have taken for a plant to reach a stage where the small animals cannot eat it? where somebody walking will not stamp on it and kill it or break it off, where some small child will not pluck it off. After that, when its trunk is taller than the reach of the smaller animals that can destroy it, then its growth will be big. Then it becomes a big tree. Alright. So, be patient. Learn from plants, not only about plants. Alright. Differentiation. The definition of differentiation, we already saw that specialization of cells. Cells become tissues for specific roles. Understanding plants is easier than human beings because the functions are not very complex. Simple functions, easy to understand and remember. Dedifferentiation, redifferentiation, we have already told. Development, interaction of growth and differentiation, flowers and seeds. Plant growth regulators, we will be studying 5 plant growth regulators. What are they? Auxins, gibberellin, cytokinins. These are the 3 growth promoters: ethylene, fruit ripening hormone, and abscisic acid, growth inhibitor. These 5. Auxin role in cell elongation, apical dominance. What counters auxin? What counters auxin and brings about lateral growth? Cytokinin. Auxin, if left to auxin, the plant will grow tall. Cytokinin will balance it, reduces the work of auxin and makes the plant grow laterally also. If you are auxin, you will feel restrained. This fellow is not allowing me to grow. He is not allowing me to do my work. He is preventing me from doing my work. But auxin and cytokinin should work together. That is good for the plant. It is not the ego boost for auxin that is important. It is what is good for the plant that is important. And what is good for the plant is a coordinated action of auxin and cytokinin. They have to work together. That is good for the plant. Sometimes auxin will dominate, sometimes cytokinin will dominate. Alright. You should watch a movie called Chakre India. Have you watched it? Have you seen it? Any of this? Have seen it? It's about hockey. Beautiful movie. Coordination and cooperation, how important it is, you'll see in that movie. Gibberellins promote seed germination, stem elongation. Indolacetic acid is the chemical that is auxin, gibberellic acid. Zeatin, cytokinin, maize is where cytokinin was identified. Abscisic acid reduces seed dormancy and stomatal closure. Ethylene, fruit ripening, leaf abscission. Ethylene gas. Ethylene is a gaseous hormone. Photoperiodism, influence of light on flowering. There are 3 types of plants based on photoperiodism: short day plants, long day plants, and day neutral plants. Short day plants require shorter duration of sunlight for them to flower. So it is light influencing flowering in the plants. Long day plants require longer duration of exposure to sunlight. Day neutral plants, it is independent of length of the day. Vernalization is also referred to as cold hardening. Cold hardening. Vernalization is requirement of cold treatment. Promotes flowering. Example, winter wheat requires cold treatment for flowering. So it will not flower before the winter season passes. Winter season would make the plant get exposed to enough cold which will initiate the mechanism of flowering in the plant. These are all stages, feedback based stages. Consider this to be an automated cooking sequence. Automated cooking sequence. Okay? If you want to cook something, let's say you want to cook vegetable curry. I am a vegetarian, so I will talk about vegetable curry. What will you do first? You will add oil first. After the oil is heated, you will add seasoning. Then you will add vegetables for sauteing. Correct? After that, you will add the spices. After that, you will add further salt and then garnishing, all of that you will do stage by stage. if you mix all the ingredients and cook simultaneously together? Will it become a dish? So, crossing certain stages, you cross something that will initiate the process of something else. So, you cross stage A to B, some chemical is produced at the end of that process, which will act as the initiator for some gene, which will trigger the production of some enzyme, which will stimulate something else, initiating the next process. You see that? Goes on like that. It's a very life, biochemically, life is a very complex mechanism of feedback. It's a very complex mechanism of chemical feedback. So something happens, that feedback will trigger something, something else happens. Imagine all of this happening in thousands of loops. There are thousands of feedback loops working simultaneously. Impossible to create something like that. Artificial intelligence is so exciting now. You know, artificial intelligence can do wonders if human intelligence that can use it is competent. Artificial intelligence will be useless in the hands of a dumb person. Even with artificial intelligence coming over, it is only intelligent people who will be able to use that and still grow. Dumb people would anyway struggle for jobs. No demeaning people, but it's dumb not by abilities, dumb because of inability to work hard. Anybody who works hard will do well in life. Okay. So plants, we are done. Most of this we have already discussed, so let's see if there is something else to touch upon. Breathing and exchange of gases. Definition of breathing. With human beings, this is all human physiology now. With human beings, what do we call as breathing? Breathing is ventilation. Ventilation of the lungs. Inhalation, exhalation, that's all is breathing. Then what is the next step? Ventilation, perfusion, transportation, and cellular respiration. 4 stages. Perfusion is gas exchange between the lungs and the blood, between the air in the alveoli and the blood in the capillaries around the alveoli, alveolar capillaries. That is perfusion. Transportation, cellular respiration. 4 things. Respiratory organs. Respiratory structures in animals, organs vary with habitat and species. Respiratory organs are designed to help organisms adapt to the surroundings that they live in. Wherever they are existing, to adapt to the surroundings, they have their organs. Gills will help fishes take in water into them and extract oxygen from that. Moist skin of frogs will help them do what respiration is that? Skin. Cutaneous respiration. Likewise, human beings are lungs. Most of the mammals are terrestrial organisms. So lungs are developed to take in air directly. Water is not allowed there. So that's designed accordingly. Gills, lungs, tracheal system, etc. different organisms. Structures go from the nostrils till the alveoli. Tell me the structures. Nostril, external nares we call it. This is the nasal passage. Then from nasal passage, air goes to the nasopharynx. From nasopharynx to the common pharynx, that is the oropharynx. Then into the lungs. Larynx. Larynx or the voice box. From larynx it goes into the trachea. Then splits into primary bronchus, secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi, how many? Into each of the lungs. There are 3 bronchus on the right side and 2 branches on the left side. Primary bronchus, secondary bronchus, tertiary bronchus. Then you have primary bronchiole, secondary bronchiole, tertiary bronchiole, goes on and on and on and on till you reach a point which you call as terminal bronchiole. Then up to terminal bronchiole, gas exchange cannot happen. So from trachea, from the larynx up to the terminal bronchiole, what do you call it? It is the space in the respiratory tree where gas exchange cannot happen. What do you call that space? Huh? Contact? Conducting part, okay. What is that space called? Dead space. It is dead space. Dead space because of what? Because of the anatomy. Because of how it is designed. Gas exchange should happen by the gradient of dash. What gradient will allow gas exchange? What gradient is created for gas exchange? Partial pressure gradient. It is the partial pressure gradient for oxygen and carbon dioxide that allows for gas exchange. And for gases to just cross a barrier, the barrier should be thin enough for gases to pass. If the barrier is thick, gases cannot pass. So up to the terminal bronchiole, the passage or the tube is so thick that it will not allow gas exchange. From the next stage onwards, the efficiency of gas exchange keeps on increasing, with the most efficient part being the alveoli. So what is the part from which gas exchange begins? What do you call that? After terminal bronchiole, the next division is where the gas exchange begins. What do we call that? It is the respiratory bronchiole. Respiratory bronchiole. Remember this. Dead space is a very important concept that you need to remember. Okay? Up to the terminal bronchiole is dead space. From the respiratory bronchiole is respiratory passage or gas exchange pathway. Okay? There are two types of dead space. Okay, from respiratory bronchiole, then what it leads to? It leads to alveolar ducts. Alveolar ducts will lead to alveolar sacs. Alveolar sacs will lead to alveoli. Alveolar duct is another passage. Sacs are like big bundles within which there are 6 to 8 alveoli. Huge number of alveoli. Small, continuously branching spaces. It is all in continuity. If you can pass a thread from one end of from here to an alveoli, you can have such small thread, it can reach the alveoli in continuity. So continuously air is allowed to pass from the upper respiratory tract to the ends of the alveoli. Okay? There is some space in the lungs, especially in the apex of the lungs, which we don't ventilate normally. We don't fill that portion, we fill those portions of the lungs. Because there is no need to fill this part of the lungs during our normal activity. So that part of the lungs never gets filled up, or mostly doesn't get filled up. Though that part of the lung is capable of gas exchange, it is not participating in gas exchange normally. If a particular space in the respiratory tree is not participating in gas exchange, what do we call such a space? We call such a space as dead space. We have one dead space which does not have the ability to do gas exchange. We have another space which has the ability but does not do gas exchange. This is a structural dead space. This is a functional dead space. Structural dead space is called what? Anatomical dead space. Functional dead space can be called, what can we call the functional dead space? Anatomy is structure. What is function? Physiology. So this dead space in the lungs, which is not participating in gas exchange, is called physiological dead space. It's called physiological dead space. Have you read about people who have the ability to read minds? So-called psychics, people who can understand, people who can see what is going on in a faraway place, people who have deeper sense of perception. Have you read about them or seen them? Watched about their stories in television? There are theories which say our body is a miracle. Our body is a system which has a lot of unknown secrets. These parts of the lungs which normally do not get ventilated needs to be opened up by effort. And as you keep opening it up by effort, the ventilation of those parts of the lungs will trigger certain areas in the brain which will provide the individual with abilities which are not present in normal human beings. That is an explanation given for superpowers, superhuman powers that certain human beings exhibit. Deeper sense of perception, the ability to understand things very fast, the ability to see things which other people cannot see, the ability to do things which appear like miracles. It is all explained by the opening up of certain channels of energy in the body, which will stimulate certain areas of the brain, which opens up certain perception abilities. Light falling on our eyes creates a picture. Correct? Light falling on our eyes creates a picture on our retina, and that picture is interpreted by our visual cortex. Comparing it with all the available references that we have, and make sense out of it. Correct? It is visible spectrum that we have, but the ability to perceive. Don't we have infrared radiation in this room? Is it not that each person is emitting different wavelengths of infrared radiation? Correct? Are there no other electromagnetic waves that are being produced by each one of us? Thought. Brain activity is identified by EEG, electroencephalogram. So electrical activity is there in the brain. Electrical activity is coupled with magnetism always. Wherever there is electricity, there is magnetism. And where there is magnetism, there is electricity. Correct? Electromagnetism we call it. I have the ability to perceive light falling on your body, and I can see it. Why should there not be ability for this brain to perceive infrared radiation, to perceive electromagnetic waves generated by a human body, by the human brain? So if I am able to access the electromagnetic waves produced by the thought process going on in your brain, and if my brain has the ability to transform that into thoughts, am I not structurally capable, logically expanding with the sound waves falling on the ears? It is waves, no? Those sound waves being interpreted as speech by the brain. If sound waves can be interpreted as speech, light waves can be interpreted as pictures, images. Why cannot the brain has ability to interpret other kinds of waves? That is the wonder of human mind, human brain. Okay? That is what you do when you do pranayama, trying to exercise your lungs, expand your lungs, regulate the flow of energy, flow of breath through your lungs. Tune up the lungs to get ventilated in areas which are normally not ventilated. What opens up? There is no manual. When somebody is gaining access to the areas of the brain which is not accessible, what opens up in whom? Nobody knows. Only when it opens up, people will know that there are some abilities which other people don't have. That is in my study that I have done. I have understood that it is all the wonders that human existence can provide. Some people gain access to it by whatever means. Different people explain it by different ways. But I am pretty sure that if we work on our nervous system and our breath, if we tune up an alignment, there are a lot of possibilities that can be opened up. I have several experiences in my own life which I have experimented with, which I don't want to share. So, have you read a book called Secret? Rhonda Byrne. It's a book called Secret. It's a book which will talk about the power of manifestation. You want something very badly, you manifest it. So things don't happen by coincidence, things don't happen by chance. It is a manifestation. These 48 people are here not because of chance. You wanted something very badly, so an opportunity started appearing in front of you. You could identify the opportunity. Somehow I got convinced by you. You are here working on things. It happens by design, and the design is here in your brain. You are designing it. Okay. So, anyways, breath, body, mind are very closely interrelated. Experimenting with the breath and body will give you access to the mind. I am talking from my experience and also the breath is a very exciting aspect for me to speak. So from respiration, breathing and exchange of gases, we went into dimensions of energy and manifesting hidden powers of the human brain. We'll come back. Who you actually are is what you don't know yet. What you know now is not even the tip of the iceberg of who you are. How can you gain access to who you actually are? Experimentation. You have to experiment. You have to keep pushing your limits. That's why I tell you, sit straight for 11.5 hours. Train your body. Your body should listen to you. Your mind should listen to you. You should control. You should push your limits. Keep pushing your limits. Comfort zone expands. The world opens. Human respiratory system, we saw that. Nostrils, pharynx, larynx, trachea and bronchi, alveoli. In the alveoli, see the cartilaginous ring. What cartilage is that? Which forms the trachea and parts of the bronchi? What cartilage? C-shaped rings of? C-shaped rings of what cartilage? Hyaline cartilage. C-shaped rings of hyaline cartilage. Why hyaline cartilage? Hyaline cartilage, unlike other cartilages, is not very hard. It is not very hard, but it provides structural stability. It provides structural stability. What is the cartilage we have here? Here? Earlobes and tip of the nose. Imagine if this was bone. By now you would have broken it so many times. Rubbing it, squeezing it, pulling it. How much you do? If it was not cartilage and bone, would it have allowed 2 fingers? How many times you poke 2 fingers into your nose? Alright. Now you all have grown up, so probably you will not do it in front of others. By the way, you are all enjoying the nostalgia, means that you still do it when nobody is around. So, anyways, just wash your hands properly. Mechanism of breathing. Inspiration, expiration, see here. Inhalation and exhalation happens by the efforts of diaphragm, intercostal muscles and ribs. These are the three structures which will contribute, and the sternum also, sternum partially. Ribs will move outward and upward when you inhale, inward and downward when you exhale. To do that, intercostal muscles will contract. Intercostal muscles contracting will pull the ribs towards each other. The design makes the ribs go outwards and upwards. It is not out and in. The movement of ribs during inhalation, exhalation is not outward and inward. It is outward and upward, downward and inward. What is this movement called? It is referred to as bucket handle movement. All of you have buckets in your rooms. So how do you lift up the bucket handle? Goes outwards and upwards, and when you leave it, it goes downwards and inwards. That is the movement of the rib cage, except the upper part of the ribs. The upper part of the ribs go like this. When you inhale, it is not coming outwards, it is going upwards. Up and down, like a pump handle. Have you used a hand pump? Like a pump handle, like it goes up and down. The upper part of the ribs will move up and down like pump handle. So there are two movements that are referred to. There are the reference of two movements to the movement of ribs during inhalation and exhalation. Remember, these questions have come on the pump handle movement and the bucket handle movement. The lower ribs except the upper ribs, all the other ribs except the top 2-3 ribs will move in a bucket handle movement. The upper ribs will move in a pump handle movement. These two movements you remember. Intercostal muscles, external intercostal, internal intercostal. There are two layers of intercostal muscles. Inter means what? Inter, intra. Two terms you have to remember again. Inter means between. Intra means within. Costa means ribs. So intercosta means between the ribs. Intercostal means between the ribs. It's an adjective. Now it becomes an adjective because we are referring to the muscles. The muscle becomes the noun. Intercostal becomes the adjective. The muscle between the two ribs, between the ribs, is referred to as intercostal muscles. Contraction of the intercostal muscles will bring about inhalation. Relaxation of the intercostal muscles brings about exhalation. Similarly, diaphragm. Diaphragm and intercostal muscles are skeletal muscles. Diaphragm, contraction of the diaphragm shortens it, so the diaphragm from being a dome becomes flat, expanding the volume of the lungs, volume of the rib cage, the thoracic cavity. But relaxation of the diaphragm will make the diaphragm becoming dome shaped again, contracting the space in the rib cage or the thoracic cavity. So that increase in the volume of the thorax and decrease in the volume of the thorax is transmitted to the lungs via the medium of what? What is transferring the movement of the thoracic cage or the thoracic wall to the lungs? Pleura, the pleural membrane. The outer pleura or the parietal pleura is attached to the inside of the rib cage. The visceral pleura is attached to the outside of the lungs. Between the two you have pleural fluid. When the rib cage expands, it pulls the parietal pleura outwards, which pulls the fluid, that pulls the visceral pleura. Visceral pleura is attached to the lungs like skin on the body. It pulls the lungs. You understand? You can do this experiment. You can take two balloons. One balloon, attach it to a outer space, something which you can pull. Another balloon inside. Between the two you add fluid. Blow the balloons in such a way that the fluid is filling the space between the two balloons. You pull the outer balloon, the inner balloon also gets expanded. You compress the outer balloon, the inner balloon also gets compressed. So you can set up an experiment to demonstrate how the pleura mediates the movement of lungs to follow the movement of rib cage, to follow the movement of the thoracic cavity. Okay? So respiratory volumes. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, residual volume. Then you have other volumes also. What is the full vital capacity? Then you have residual volume. Residual volume is as we mentioned. Okay. Inspiratory capacity, expiratory capacity. We will do one breathing exercise to understand the volumes. Alright? You have to look at my hand, look at my finger which is drawing a waveform. Alright? All of you sit straight. I'll give you instructions for inhale, exhale, inhale, and then exhale. Inhale and out. What is this? The volume of air you inhale or exhale during a normal breathing is tidal volume, about 500 ml. The volume of air that you can inhale over and above your normal inhalation is inspiratory reserve. Then you breathe normal tidal volume, and volume of air that you can exhale after a normal exhalation is expiratory reserve volume. Then the volume of air that you can exhale after maximum inhalation or inhale after maximum exhalation is vital capacity. That's all. You just have to draw a waveform and look at it and do the pranayama. You do 6 cycles of lung volume pranayama by repeating the volumes in your mind. Within 2-3 minutes, volumes will fix in your mind. We will do it with volumes. I will tell you the volume and you have to do that, okay? Keep doing tidal volume respiration. Keep inhaling and exhaling in tidal volume. Now test your inspiratory reserve volume and come back to tidal volume respiration. Now let's test your expiratory reserve volume and come back to normal tidal volume respiration. Reach your inspiratory capacity and go out to your expiratory capacity. So that is your vital capacity. Explore your vital capacity. That is the range. Okay. What do you call the device which you use to measure your volumes? Spirometry. Now it is all digital. You just have to keep a tube and keep breathing following the instructions. During our first year MBBS days, we used to have a drum which rotates slowly and you keep breathing. The tube is connected to a lever which has a pencil attached to it at the end. The pencil touching the drum, and the drum has a paper, graph paper, volume paper. So as you keep breathing, the drum is moving slowly, so the pencil is moving, and you are getting a graph. You see. Tidal volume is the volume of air that you inhale or exhale during a normal respiration. So after a normal inhalation, what you exhale, or what you inhale after a normal exhalation, that is tidal volume. Whatever you can inhale beyond your tidal volume is your inspiratory reserve volume. From normal exhalation to maximum inhalation, that is your inspiratory capacity. After a normal exhalation, what is the maximum you can inhale? That is your inspiratory capacity. Same with exhalation also. After a normal inhalation, what you exhale normally is your tidal volume. What you can exhale beyond your tidal volume exhalation is expiratory capacity, expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory capacity is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory capacity is tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. Vital capacity is the entire range from maximum inhalation to maximum exhalation. Tell me in terms of the other volumes, maximum inhalation to maximum exhalation. Give me the volumes that are a part of it. Inspiratory reserve volume, then tidal volume, expiratory reserve volume. If you have to represent vital capacity in terms of inspiratory capacity and expiratory capacity, how do you represent it? I want a formula for vital capacity with inspiratory capacity and expiratory capacity as the components. Give me a formula for vital capacity. Minus? Tell your problem. I will not give you my repetition clearly.
Inspiratory capacity plus expiratory capacity minus tidal.
Did you hear?
Inspiratory capacity plus expiratory capacity.
Could you hear it? There was noise disturbance in between. Your friends are not cooperating. Louder. See, you are sitting, you are leaning over, your lungs are not supporting you. Stand up. Projection should happen to that side. Otherwise, what is apply physics? You are hitting the sound waves here. They are all getting the reflected sound wave. So effort will be more. Turn around and say, project it.
Inspiratory capacity plus expiratory capacity minus tidal.
Could you hear it? Now if you say you could not hear it, then they are playing around. See, in vital capacity, you have inspiratory reserve, tidal volume, expiratory reserve. Questions have come where inspiratory capacity has been given. So if you miss there, inspiratory capacity plus tidal volume plus expiratory capacity will be one option. Can I say inspiratory capacity plus expiratory reserve volume for vital capacity? Can I say that? Inspiratory capacity plus expiratory reserve volume. That can be told. Inspiratory capacity is inspiratory reserve volume plus tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume is your vital capacity. The same simple fourth standard arithmetic. You know the logic, what it is, then you know it. So you need to have that graph in mind. Don't practice and learn to remember the graph. Do it. Breathe and experience the different volumes. Okay? No matter how much you squeeze out your brain, how much you try to bring out all the air from your lungs, there will still be air remaining in your lungs, and that is your residual volume. Vital capacity plus residual volume is equal to total lung capacity. That is what your lungs can accommodate. That is the total lung capacity. So the volumes that you have to remember, it's all mix and match of this. Questions can come. If the questions come based on volumes, it will all be very simple. What can be confusing? You see this. These numbers are from NCERT. So stick to these numbers. Inspiratory reserve volume is more than expiratory reserve volume generally. Residual volume is more or less equal to expiratory reserve volume. Tidal volume is the least of all, 500 ml. Expiratory reserve volume and residual volume is more or less of the same volume. But if you have to choose one over the other, see generally when the options are given, one of the options will have expiratory reserve volume to be higher than residual volume. Some will be residual volume higher than expiratory reserve volume. Pay attention. You will have something else which will tell you which one to choose. Okay? But expiratory reserve and residual volume is more or less of the same volume. You see this 1100 to 1400 ml. This is where confusion can come. You should know of the reserve, inspiratory reserve is higher. Inspiratory reserve is higher than expiratory reserve. Okay? That's all. Residual volume is more or less similar, but if you have to choose, residual volume will be slightly higher than expiratory reserve volume. Clear? Exchange of gases, site of gas exchange, alveoli and capillaries. There is something called ventilation perfusion ratio. VP ratio, ventilation perfusion ratio. How much of the lungs is getting ventilated and how much perfusion is happening. Ventilation perfusion ratio is a measure of health of the lungs. Ventilation perfusion ratio. Ventilation is of the perfusion membrane. Okay. Where is ventilation perfusion both happening simultaneously? At the level of alveoli. Alveolo-capillary membrane. That is also referred to as the perfusion membrane. That is the membrane across which perfusion happens. Alveolo-capillary membrane, 2 layers of squamous epithelium cells. A single layer of squamous epithelium on the alveolar wall side and a single layer of squamous epithelium on the capillary side. Okay. Diffusion based on concentration gradient mechanism driven by partial pressures of oxygen and carbon dioxide. Oxygen transport, oxyhemoglobin formation. One molecule of hemoglobin can bind with how many molecules of oxygen? 4 O2. Alright, questions can come asking you for how many atoms of oxygen can bind to one molecule. Then it would be 8. Oxyhemoglobin, carbaminohemoglobin, carboxyhemoglobin, methemoglobin. 4 hemoglobins you have to remember. Alright? Oxyhemoglobin is hemoglobin plus oxygen. Is it okay? Carboxyhemoglobin is hemoglobin plus oxyhemoglobin is hemoglobin plus oxygen. Carboxyhemoglobin is hemoglobin plus carbon dioxide. Hemoglobin plus carbon monoxide. Hemoglobin plus carbon dioxide is what? Carbohemoglobin. Carbaminohemoglobin. Why? Carbon dioxide binds to the amino terminal of the globin chain. Alright. Carbon dioxide binds to the amino terminal of the globin of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is heme plus globin. There are 4 globin chains attached to heme. Carbon dioxide binds to the amino terminal. So the compound is called carbaminohemoglobin, not carboxyhemoglobin. What is methemoglobin? Methemoglobinemia. Methemoglobin is the binding of nitrates to hemoglobin. Alright? Affinity of hemoglobin to different substances you should know. Of all these 4, oxygen, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide and nitrates, hemoglobin has the highest affinity for who? Carbon monoxide. The affinity of hemoglobin for carbon monoxide is 200 times more than the affinity of hemoglobin for oxygen. Correct? So unfair. Oxygen is what the body requires. But hemoglobin doesn't care about oxygen. Available, it picks up. If somebody wants it, it just gives it. If hemoglobin catches hold of, or if carbon monoxide catches hold of hemoglobin, it will not leave it. Okay. So generally I tell about this. Oxyhemoglobin is like college love stories. And there is affinity, no. Alright. Carboxyhemoglobin is like a very possessive marriage. I will not leave you. If you want to get separated from me, you should leave. So those kind of oxyhemoglobin is most productive. Friendships, relationships should be like oxyhemoglobin. I have my life, you have your life, we have our life. There is an overlapping zone, no? The overlapping zone is common zone. There should be something else also. If there is no something else, everything is overlapping. Problem, carboxyhemoglobin. There is no life beyond that. That is death. Hemoglobin, which is bound to carbon monoxide, is absolutely useless. And that is functional anemia. What is functional anemia? How do you find out anemia? You do a blood test, you will check for RBC count, you will check for hemoglobin count. Hemoglobin is showing 14 grams per deciliter of blood. RBC is showing 5 lakhs, 5 million. So RBC is normal, hemoglobin is normal. Iron bending capacity check, iron bending capacity is normal. TIBC, total iron bending capacity of blood. But the person is experiencing symptoms of anemia, breathlessness, tiredness, constant irritability. All of those are symptoms of anemia. Exposure to hemoglobin will make exposure to carbon monoxide will make people have functional anemia. Anemia will make a person less productive. The person will not have enough oxygen to carry out his normal activities because hemoglobin is not able to deliver. If hemoglobin is low, anemia is low hemoglobin or RBC count normally. Functional anemia is functionally the person is experiencing the symptoms of whatever anemia will do, but hemoglobin count is normal, RBC count is normal. Hemoglobin is normal, RBC count is normal. Okay. The advantage you have over the people who stay in polluted cities is that most of the hemoglobin that you have is doing the work that it is supposed to do. So you can stay awake longer, you can work more, you can concentrate better, you can play more, you can be more active. People in polluted cities are exposed to vehicular pollution, more fumes, carbon monoxide pollution is also there. How much ever you try to have catalytic converters, pollution check and all, the vehicles will still emit carbon monoxide. 100% of carbon monoxide is not converted into dioxide. That is what catalytic converters do know. Catalytic converters in the vehicles are supposed to convert carbon monoxide into carbon dioxide and make it safer for elimination from the vehicles. But everything is not converted efficiently. Still carbon monoxide will be there. When you breathe that polluted air, carbon monoxide goes in, diffuses into blood, binds to some hemoglobin. Whatever hemoglobin gets bound to carbon monoxide becomes non-functional. It is not available for oxygen transport. Over, finish. So, doing pranayama becomes that much more important because you are training your lungs to ventilate more. In that case, your lungs is able to take in more air, increasing the amount of oxygen being delivered to the blood. Right. So all of this we have discussed now. Carbon dioxide transport, carbaminohemoglobin, bicarbonates is the predominant mode of transportation for carbon dioxide. In the bicarbonate formation, we have chloride shift, Hamburger phenomenon. Where is chloride shift happening? Where is the acid being formed? Inside the RBC. So chloride shifts inwards, calcium and magnesium shift outwards, calcium, potassium, to form bicarbonates in the plasma. Bicarbonates are transported in the plasma or inside the RBC. Bicarbonate formation is happening in the RBC or in the plasma? Inside the RBC. What is that special enzyme that RBC has? Carbonic anhydrase. Carbonic anhydrase is present inside RBC. Very important enzyme. You have to remember that. Within this, carbonic anhydrase is the enzyme that you have to remember. Carbonic anhydrase. That is what will allow transportation in the form of bicarbonates. Efficient transportation of carbon dioxide in the form of bicarbonates is possible because of carbonic anhydrase. Chloride shift exchange of bicarbonate ions with chloride ions ensure ionic balance. Regulation of respiration, neural control, respiratory rhythm center in medulla. Controls breathing rates, rate signals from pods and cable centers, etc. There is respiratory center in the medulla. Respiratory center is there in the medulla and vasomotor center is there in the medulla. Two very important vital centers are present in the medulla. Medulla is the lowermost part of the brainstem. Beyond the medulla, spinal cord starts. So this part, this region, the softer region, the region just beyond this bony prominence that you find in the back of your neck, in the nape of your neck, that is where you will find medulla. So this part of the skull is also not very hard. Injury to this part of the brain, this part of the skull, can lead to damage to the respiratory center and vasomotor center. And also that is the junction where brain is ending and spinal cord is beginning. Injury to that part can lead to paralysis of the entire part of the body, neck downwards. So this is a sensitive part of the body. That is why while playing, you should not do this. You should not hit people on the back of their head. Don't hit people only, first of all. Alright? So I'm changing my statement, not on the back of the head or wherever. Don't hit people. Doesn't mean you should not be capable of hitting people. Alright? You should be capable, but you should not hit. You should be a lion, but should not make it a sport to attack. If you are a sheep, you can't attack. No matter what you do, people will keep hitting you. You should be a lion and people should know that. But you should not attack. Then people will know where their distance is, where their boundaries are. Okay. So, there is a story, I think from, it's a story, anecdotal story. A snake is feared by a lot of people. The snake used to bite people also. The snake used to bite people and people are scared of this snake. The snake comes across Buddha one day. Buddha tells the snake, advises the snake to be non-violent and don't bite people. Why do you want to kill people? So Buddha gives some suggestion. Then he goes. Snakes gets influenced by Buddha's speech. And the snake wants to be non-violent. You should not harm people. You should, somebody beats you, get beaten. Don't beat, don't hit back. But the snake gets inspired. Now the snake decides to be non-violent. Buddha completes his trip and he is coming back and he sees the snake is injured. He is limping. Not limping, he is crawling with great difficulty. He has injuries on his body. Buddha asks, why, what happened? Boss, you told me not to bite people. Now see, people are beating me. Then Buddha says, I told you not to bite people. Did I tell you not to kiss at people? You should keep reminding people that you can bite. But you should not bite unless it becomes a necessity to bite. Okay. People should know that if time comes, you can be dangerous. But they should also know if they don't cross the boundaries, you will not be dangerous. Okay? Very important. Non-violence should be power, not weakness. Only powerful people can be non-violent. Remember this. Weak people cannot be non-violent because they don't have the capacity to be violent. If you don't have the power to do violence, non-violence means nothing to you. It has no meaning for your life. You have all the power and you have the power to be the most violent, but you don't display violence, then there is non-violence. Yes. Low control. All this deviation happened because of medulla, respiratory center and vasomotor center, two very important centers in the medulla. Alright. What is chemoreceptors influencing rhythm? Breathing range, a lot of internal receptors are there. Internally, the body has so many receptors. Externally also, the body has receptors. Alright. External receptors are for the purpose of identifying the changes in the surroundings. Internal receptors are for the purpose of identifying changes in the internal ecosystem. Internally, it is chemical ecosystem. So you need to have electrochemical signaling mechanism or sensor mechanism inside the body. You should have perception ability for the outside. So for the outside, what receptors do you have? You have touch receptors, pain receptors, pressure receptors, temperature receptors, vibration receptors. You can sense all that. With all these receptors, you are able to, and photoreceptors, eyes. Photoreceptors you have. Those special sense organs, if we leave the special sense organs, eyes, ears, nose, these are all chemoreceptors. Nose and tongue are chemoreceptors. Ears are changes in the waves. Eyes, again, photoreceptors. So if you leave the special senses, these are the external receptors. Internally, what do you want to find out? What changes do you want to find out? You want to identify the volume of blood so that you can regulate the flow of blood. You want to identify temperature internally. What is the temperature inside the body? It cannot be the same everywhere. The volume of blood cannot be the same everywhere. The pressure of blood flow cannot be the same everywhere. It is not one receptor at some point. It is receptors everywhere throughout the body. Internally, every part of the body has receptors. Every part of the body continuously keeps sending these messages. It's a continuous feedback mechanism. How much is the volume of blood flow? How much is the pressure with which the blood is flowing? What is the kind of respiration that is happening? Is there aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, oxygen levels, carbon dioxide levels, nutrient levels? Is there enough glucose being supplied? Are the wastes being taken out? Is there accumulation of metabolic wastes in any part of the body? Continuously. Those are the things, no? Oxygen, carbon dioxide, circulation, flow of blood, volume of blood, the temperature in a particular region, availability of nutrients, the status of wastes. All of these are continuously being signaled. The receptors are picking up the signals, chemical chemoreceptors, they are picking up the signals and they are sending message to the brain. At different levels, this information is processed and appropriate response is designed to ensure that what needs to happen in a particular part of the body happens. When you eat food, if you eat a heavy lunch, what will happen? Let's say there is a class after lunch, post lunch, and you have eaten heavy lunch. What will happen during the class? As it is, the class is very potent, very capable of making you fall asleep. Heavy lunch will amplify that influence. The lunch will, complement the teacher's efforts to put you to sleep and scold you. Why is that happening? Because of that heavy lunch, there is more nutrients that has entered the bloodstream, making the blood more viscous. Viscosity of blood increases, blood flow becomes sluggish, and because there is a lot of activity in the digestive system, more blood flow is diverted towards the digestive system, reducing the blood flow to other parts of the body, relatively reducing the blood flow to the brain. Sluggish blood flow, diversion of blood to the digestive system, brain is not getting enough blood, Other organs are not getting enough blood. So brain initiates the mechanism of putting all the other organs or parts of the body to rest. What is the best way to put everything to rest? Sleep. Sleep is triggered, and when you sleep, your metabolism generally becomes lower. By the time you wake up, there is a balance restored in the body. Nutrients have been pushed into different compartments. The sluggishness of blood flow is corrected. Blood flow is restored. Compartmental inflammation is corrected. The fluid is removed. That gets corrected. But fibrotic consolidation is permanent. If it is fibrosed and there is calcium deposits and the other fibers are there, solidifies the part of the alveoli. That alveoli becomes useless completely. Fibrosis can happen due to tuberculosis, tuberculotic fibrosis. When you see the lung X-ray, you can see the fibrotic spots. Air will allow X-rays to pass. So whatever allows X-rays to pass will let the X-ray go and hit the film. Wherever the film is exposed to X-rays, it will appear lighter. Those parts of the body that will block X-rays, film behind that will appear darker. So have you noticed? Bones will appear darker or lighter than an X-ray. Bones appear darker. If there is air, that part will appear more lighter. Fluid will be darker than air, but it will not be as dark as bone. So relatively, when you see, you will know. When you see an X-ray, you will know which part is air, which part is fluid, which part is solidified, which part is bone. All of that you can pick out. Asthma. One important thing that you have to remember in asthma is an allergic response. It is an allergic, it's a hyperactivity, it's a hypersensitivity disease. So whatever triggers it, the muscles in the respiratory tree, especially the bronchioles, the muscles in the bronchiolar wall goes into contraction, making it difficult for the bronchioles to expand. If it is difficult for the bronchioles to expand, ventilation will not be adequate. Have you experienced situations where you want to take in more air into the lungs but you are not able to take it? You will try to inhale more but your lungs is not expanding. You feel that you want more air into the lungs but you are not able to take it. Has that happened? And suddenly when you are able to take in that air, you will feel a kind of sensation in the brain. There is a kind of relief in the brain. You feel kind of satisfied in the brain. Breath holding will help you experience that more ventilation. Inhale to your respiratory capacity and hold your breath as much as possible. That will kind of push open certain areas of your lungs. Fully and hold. Suddenly you will feel something opens up. Opening up of the lungs will give you some sensation in the brain that needs to be experienced. When it opens up, you will experience that. Alright. Asthma is hyperactivity response. Now tell me, what will be more difficult in asthma? For an asthma patient, is inhalation more difficult or exhalation more difficult? What is more difficult? Inhalation or exhalation? Somebody who is an asthmatic, inhalation is more difficult or exhalation is more difficult? Question. This is a question. This has appeared as question multiple times. So this is a point of confusion for many students. To be clear with this. What is difficult? Inhalation or exhalation? So he is thinking logically. If this is something which is causing difficulty to people, then what appears to be right might not be right, because most of the people will mark what appears to be right to be the right choice. To my mind, it appears like inhalation would be difficult, because inhalation is taking effort. I have to inhale. Exhalation happens automatically. So mostly inhalation is difficult. But because most of the people are doing it wrong, probably exhalation is difficult in asthma. Okay. Exhalation is more difficult in asthma. Why? I told you the answer, you give me the logic now. Sir, nobody asks for logic in exams. Only if I mark correct. No. Why is exhalation more difficult? Let us say this is the air passage. Alright? There is an inflammatory mass in this. So there will be some inflammatory fluid inside the lungs during asthma attack. During inhalation, what will happen to the wall of this? That gets pulled. So it becomes bigger. This mass remains the same. During exhalation, what happens to this? The diameter of the tube, diameter of the passage during exhalation gets pushed. So the tube becomes smaller, but this remains same. What is difficult? To inhale in an expanded tube or to exhale in a contracted blocked tube. Which is difficult? Exhalation is difficult. And because there is a lot of exertion, there is a lot of effort being put by exhalation, it is like, have you made whistle using leaf, some plant leaf, you will fold it, and if there is a bigger passage and in here where you are passing air through it, if that is made a narrow passage, so you are blowing air through a narrow passage which goes into a bigger passage. Then sound comes, no? Wheezing. Exhalation is being attempted forcefully through a narrow passage and through narrow passages which is blocked. When you exhale air, when you are squeezing out air from smaller tubes to bigger tubes. Exhalation is happening from smaller tubes to bigger tubes. No? From alveoli towards the trachea. That is the exhalation pathway. So air is being pushed through smaller blocked tubes into bigger tubes. Leads to noise. Noisy breathing. And there is a characteristic noise of asthma. It's called wheeze. When a person is exhaling, it sounds something like this. Have you heard it? Have any of you experienced this sound? No? You don't even have to. And when you look at a chronic asthmatic, their neck muscles will be hypertrophied. So that continuous exertion, when you are forcefully trying to exhale, these neck muscles are exerted. You should know those sounds. Wheeze, that is called wheeze. Okay. There is another type of sound that comes from fluid or some obstruction there, but not asthma. It is like crumbling of leaves. That is called crepitation. When you hear to that, you will not hear it loudly. You will have to auscultate. Through a stethoscope, when you listen to it, you will find, you will hear sounds like crumbling of leaves. Those kind of sounds. That is crepitation. But wheeze will be very characteristic. You will know who is an asthmatic. When by looking at the person, you will know that the person has asthma. The neck muscles are hypertrophied, very difficulty in breathing. They are normally breathing through their mouth also. Pursed lips. Constantly they will keep like this. They will not be able to close their lips because for a period of time they have been struggling with breathing. So this becomes their natural breathing pattern. And sound will be visible, audible when they are having an asthmatic attack. When they are going through active asthma, the wheeze will be heard. Very characteristic. Exhalation is difficult. The sound is called wheeze, wheezing, like a baby growling, crying. Okay. See, just to the syllabus map, we have discussed so many things that can come as questions. And these are all frequently asked questions. What can be asked? Same things. Recycle, repackage, restructure, ask. For you, it will be one time you will be writing the exam. Or all of you will be writing at least for the second time. Okay? Some of you will be writing third time, fourth time also. But for preparing the papers, the syllabus is the same. Concepts are the same. How many questions can you pull out? You cannot pull out questions from irrelevant concepts just to make the question paper novel, interesting. All new questions. You cannot pull out concepts. You cannot pull out questions from irrelevant and not significant concepts. You have to pull out questions from the same concepts. So get the concepts right. Let them play with the questions. We know the concepts. We will deal with it. No worries. That's all. So it's simple. It's easy. Body fluids and circulation. What are the different types of circulating body fluids do we have in our body? Different types of circulating body fluids. There are 3 circulating body fluids that we have in our body. What are those? Talking about body fluids and circulation, no? 3 fluids in the body which are circulating. What are those? One at least you should tell to start with. Blood. Then lymph. Third one? Plasma is a part of blood only. It's like telling what did you inhale? Oxygen and nitrogen also, and carbon dioxide also. It's all a part of the air that you inhale. Blood, okay, blood, lymph. Lymph is also derived from blood only, but it's a separate circulation that we have. So lymph. Then third one, which is the third fluid that is circulating in your body. When I say circulating in your body, does not necessarily mean circulating throughout the body, but circulating in the body. The loop of circulation might be shorter or longer, that doesn't matter. What else circulates in your body? All of you know it. So, we are getting closer to an moment. So better think and tell me, which is the third fluid that circulates in your body? Come on. To check for infection in a particular system of the body, we will tap into this fluid and take out this fluid for examination. What? A particular system. So it is not blood. Blood is generally for the entire body, you will check for it. For a particular system examination, especially to check for any infection, we will take out this fluid under very strict sterile conditions, aseptic conditions, and examine this fluid. Which fluid is this? This fluid is produced in a system of ventricles. And the cells which are producing this fluid in the ventricles are referred to by a particular plexus. It is referred to as serous fluid is a reference to the texture of the fluid, like sugar syrup, serous means. In the ear ventricles. What fluid do you have in the ear? Okay. Right. The fluid in the semicircular canals. But what is producing it? What plexus is producing it? One part of the logic is right. Ears also have fluid in the semicircular canals, but not produced by plexus. The name of the plexus is choroid plexus. Choroid plexus is present in certain ventricles which is producing this fluid. What is this fluid?
Is it cerebrospinal?
And now you have to tell it out loud. Shout out loud. Correct. That is the fluid.
Cerebrospinal fluid.
I will tell it very good.
Cerebrospinal fluid.
What is it? Could you hear it? What is it?
Cerebrospinal fluid.
Cerebrospinal fluid. CSF. Produced in the choroid plexus of ventricles. How many ventricles are there? Lateral ventricles, third ventricle, fourth ventricle. Huh? Foramen of Lushka, foramen of Kennedy. Huh? Circulates in the central nervous system around the brain and spinal cord. Got it. Anyways. So there are three fluids that circulate in the body: blood, lymph, cerebrospinal fluid. So cerebrospinal fluid is produced by the choroid plexus in the ventricles of the brain. Ventricles are nothing to worry. So ventricles are present in the brainstem, in the midbrain and brainstem. They are empty spaces. You consider brain to be one big watermelon. Inside there are empty spaces, ventricles. There are two in the midbrain. They are called lateral ventricles. They produce cerebrospinal fluid and send it to the third one. Forget about specific names, okay? Get the logic. Now this fluid is required for keeping the brain. It provides nourishment. It acts as a medium of exchange of material with the brain and the surrounding capillaries also, and it also acts as a shock absorber. It is in between the dura mater and the arachnoid mater, between the arachnoid and the pia mater, outside of the brain, between the arachnoid mater and the pia mater, the cerebrospinal fluid circulates, both around the brain as well as the spinal cord. But this is produced inside the brain. The cerebrospinal fluid is produced inside the brain. When it is being produced inside the brain, how can it get around the brain? If this is the brain, this room is the brain, The production unit is inside this room. But what you produce should go and smear all around the room. How can you make it? How do you make it happen? Take some pipes. Take the pipe outside of the room. Ensure that the fluid is going around the room. That's the ventricular system. These ventricles will produce the cerebrospinal fluid. It passes through the brainstem. At the beginning of the spinal cord, by the ending of the brainstem and the spinal cord, there are openings, holes. We call it foramen of Lushka, foramen of Spaghetti. Forget the foramen. There are holes through which it goes out of the brainstem and goes around the brainstem is narrow, no? It is narrowing down. So if it goes out and if it does not cross the arachnoid matter, it will go around the arachnoid matter, between the arachnoid matter and the pyometer. And the same fluid continues in the central canal of the spinal cord also. It continues in the central canal of the spinal cord also. And there is a drainage mechanism in the spinal cord. Simple pipelines. There is a fluid producing unit. There are pipelines. There are mechanisms that will allow this fluid to go all around the brain. Okay. So cerebrospinal fluid is produced in the ventricles of the brain. Where is blood produced? What produces blood? Where is blood produced? Huh? Bone marrow. Where is blood produced for the first time in the body during development? Which is the first organ to produce blood during intrauterine development? Kidney? No. Liver. Liver is the one which starts producing blood first in the intrauterine development. During intrauterine development, spleen also will be producing blood. Liver and spleen during intrauterine development were producing blood also. Alright. Bone marrow of all the bones were producing blood during intrauterine life. But after you are born, only the bone marrow of long bones and flat bones, will produce blood. Not all the bones. Alright? Short bones do not produce blood. Long bones, humerus, tibia, fibula, radius ulna, femur, tibia, fibula, sternum, flat bones, sternum, ribs. These are all the pelvis. These are all the bones which will produce blood. Short bones will not produce blood. Bone marrow of long bones and flat bones are producing blood. Question can be, which of the following bones, the bone marrow of which of the following bones will not produce blood in an adult human? Sternum, ribs, femur, tarsals. Tarsals don't produce blood because it is neither long nor flat. Ribs are flat bones, they produce blood. Okay, remember, if bone marrow fails, if there is failure of bone marrow in producing blood, liver can restart blood production. Liver can compensate by reinitiating blood production mechanism. Spleen cannot. Spleen loses the ability by the time a child is born. But liver continues to retain the ability, but it does not do it because bone marrow is supposed to do it. If bone marrow fails, liver can do it. Not as efficiently as the bone marrow, but liver can do it to hold the person alive for a while. Backup mechanism. Alright. When a country is in war, did you follow Palestine-Israel war? When the war broke out, when Israel-Palestine war broke out, lot of Israelis from various parts of the world started going back to their countries, going back to Israel. Civilians. Why? Country is in danger. They want to fight. Can they fight like trained soldiers? They can't fight like trained soldiers, but if need be, they can fight. Similarly, if there is a need, if a country goes into war and soldiers are trying their best, but they are not enough, civilians will be mobilized. Civilians will have to go voluntarily, initially, and eventually, if it comes to the point where people have to be pushed into war, they will be pushed into war. Because ensuring that the country is safeguarded is a priority. Efficiency doesn't matter in times of crisis. Effectiveness. Do what is supposed to be done, even if it is not efficient. That is nature's way. To stay alive is important. If you say, what's the point? The person will anyways die. The person will die when everything fails. The person will not be allowed to die without compensatory mechanisms trying its best to keep the person alive for as long as possible. Nature doesn't give up. Nature will always try to maintain life. To ensure that life is continuing to exist for as long as possible. Every life will end at some point of time. So if you see by the logic that what's the point of doing something because the person is anyways going to die. Nature doesn't operate like that. Nature does not give up. Death occurs because nothing worked. Or the breakdown was beyond point of recovery. Not because attempt did not happen, because it was not sufficient. Alright? Why human intelligence has become the enemy of human beings is because humans have become unnatural. To give up is human tendency. Animals don't give up. To catch hold of an ant, the ant can think, no, I am anyways in the hand of a human being. He will anyways squeeze me to death. What will the ant do? Squeeze me. Alright. It will try to escape. It will try to escape. If it was logical like human being, I am gone now. No giving up in nature. No suicide in nature. There is no suicide in nature. Till the last moment, there is fight in nature. Fight for survival is natural. To give up is unnatural, which is a negative consequence of human intelligence. Okay. So we'll just look at this. Composition of blood. Blood has plasma and formed elements. If you want to divide it into broad categories, plasma and formed elements. Formed elements are those which are cells. RBCs, WBCs and platelets. Plasma has serum and proteins. So pure fluid without cells and proteins is serum. Alright? Serum will have only antibodies, immunoglobulins, nothing else. No albumin, fibrinogen or other kind of globulins. Only immunoglobulins will be there. Okay. So, if you want to classify the composition of blood, blood is plasma, formed elements. In plasma, serum, proteins, plasma proteins. In formed elements, RBCs, WBCs, platelets. In proteins, albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. In WBCs, granulocytes, agranulocytes. In granulocytes, acidophils, basophils, neutrophils. In agranulocytes, lymphocytes, leukocytes. In lymphocytes, B lymphocytes, T lymphocytes, natural killer cells. Alright? Then monocytes, natural killer is not lymphocyte. Monocyte becomes macrophages and natural killer cells. You all know this? What we write? Quickly write down. In this one flow chart, you can understand the entire immune system. I'll show you how. Blood, plasma, formed elements, F-O-R-M-E-D, formed elements. In plasma you have serum, T cell, helper T cell, and memory T cell, 4 T cells. That's all. Is this portion clear for everybody? Plasma, serum, proteins. In proteins there are 3 types of proteins: albumin, globulin, fibrinogen. Clear? Any confusion in that? Now we will come to this side. This everybody should be able to understand. RBCs, WBCs and platelets. RBC, WBC, platelets. In WBCs, cells with granules, cells without granules. So granulocytes, agranulocytes. If the granules are acidic, eosinophils, so they take up eosin stain. If the granules are basic, basophils, they take up hematoxylin stain. If the granules are both acidic and basic, they are neutrophils. So they take up both eosin stain and hematoxylin stain. So 3: acidophils, basophils, neutrophils. Acidic granules, basic granules, both acidic and basic granules, so you call it neutrophils. Lymphocytes, monocytes, lymphocytes, monocytes. These fellows, lymphocytes, are responsible for specific immunity. Okay? These are the ones who will remember and attack. These fellows indiscriminately attack. Show me your passport, no passport, take them. That's all. So these fellows will identify. Show me your identity, no identity. Ready fellow, you already come once. You are coming for the second time. I'll beat you more. He comes for the third time, beat more. Every subsequent exposure, more beating. Neutrophils and macrophages, nothing like that. Every time same response. ID, no ID, attack. Okay. Then, now that we have listed down the components of blood, I will tell you the function of spirometry. What is this fellow for? Albumin has 2 jobs, important jobs. One, albumin is like the undertaker for dead RBCs. Who is the undertaker? Who does all the last rites? Albumin is like the undertaker for dead RBCs. When the dead RBCs are available, which organ is called the graveyard of RBCs? Spleen. Spleen is not actually the graveyard of RBCs. Spleen should rightly be referred as assassination unit of RBCs. But that also is not like that. See, if I'm a 70-year-old heart patient. And I decided to go on a Himalayan trek. I died because of heart attack in the Himalayas. Can I call the Himalayas to be killer mountains? No. That is how spleen has got its name. Wrong reference. Spleen is not doing anything. Old and weak RBCs will lose the flexibility of their body. RBCs are very concave. They can squeeze through narrow capillaries. They can squeeze through narrow capillaries. Spleen has very narrow capillaries. It is like it's like caves where you have to crawl. Not even crawling, you have to lie down on your back and crawl. Lie down on your tummy and crawl. Other capillaries are like you can crawl on your knees. Spleen capillaries are like you have to crawl on your elbow. Can a 70-year-old heart patient do that? He goes in. Bloody graveyard RBC, graveyard of RBC. Spleen is killing RBCs. There is no RBCs dying. Alright, RBCs lose the elasticity as they age. And aged RBCs, when they are squeezing through narrow capillaries of the spleen, are not capable of flexibility, adjusting to the, modifying their shape to squeeze through. They rupture, they break. And rupture of the RBC is death of RBC. When RBCs rupture, what do you get? Hemoglobin. Everything else is empty space. The RBC is a cell. Everything else is fluid. The things go. Hemoglobin has to be dealt with. Hemoglobin is roaming around now in blood. Free hemoglobin is roaming around in blood. Now, heme and globin will be separated. Goes to the liver. In the liver, heme and globin will be separated. In the blood also, heme and globin is separated. Globin is broken down further into amino acids and globin is reused. Amino acids are reused. Heme has to be further processed. Now this heme will be coupled with this fellow, albumin. Heme is converted into biliverdin. Heme is converted into biliverdin in the process of metabolism. And that biliverdin is converted into bilirubin. Biliverdin is converted into bilirubin. Bilirubin gets coupled with this fellow. This fellow's job, whose job? Albumin's job is to bind to bilirubin and take him to the liver. Alright, this bilirubin coupled with this fellow is called conjugated bilirubin. Conjugated bilirubin is bilirubin which is bound to albumin. Why is it binding? Albumin will take this bilirubin to the liver. In the liver, bilirubin is processed further for excretion. It is separated from albumin. Albumin is told to go get somebody else, get another dead bilirubin. So albumin goes back. It is decoupled. And bilirubin is pushed into the gallbladder as a part of bile and it is excreted into the intestine. Alright? That is conjugated bilirubin. Albumin's job is to conjugate with bilirubin and help in the elimination of bilirubin. Bilirubin is a byproduct of hemoglobin metabolism. Increased levels of bilirubin will cause one disorder. What is that? Jaundice. Hyperbilirubinemia. If there is increased bilirubin in the blood, then it is called jaundice. Now tell me what all can be the reasons for jaundice? One, increased production of bilirubin. For increased production of bilirubin, what should happen? Increased breakdown of RBC. Whatever may be the cause of increased breakdown of RBC, if the breakdown of RBC is more, bilirubin production will be more. Okay? Cause of increase in bilirubin is even before it reaches liver. So this is called pre-hepatic jaundice. Pre-hepatic. Jaundice is because of the causes which is before liver. Second, liver is supposed to process it and put it into the bile. If liver is not able to do that because of liver disease, liver might have hepatitis, some infection, inflammation, alcohol, liver has become weak, dysfunctional, cirrhosis has happened, whatever may be the reason. If the problem is in the liver, bilirubin production is normal, but the processing of bilirubin is not happening in the liver, causing bilirubin to increase in blood. Correct? Hepatic jaundice. Bilirubin is processed, bile is produced, everything is normal, it is pushed into the gallbladder. From there it has to be squeezed out into the small intestine. But there is a stone blocking the passage of the gallbladder. So bilirubin is getting accumulated in the gallbladder, but you are not able to push it out into the small intestine because of stone obstruction. So this is post-hepatic jaundice. Bilirubin production is normal. Processing is normal in the liver. Excretion is not happening because of blockage. Post-hepatic, because of obstruction. So pre-hepatic jaundice is also referred to as hemolytic jaundice. What do you mean by hemolysis? Breakdown of RBC. Hemolytic jaundice, pre-hepatic. Hepatic is also referred to as infective jaundice or inflammatory jaundice or hepatitis. Some infection, inflammation because of infection, injury, cirrhosis, whatever. So hepatic jaundice is called hepatitis, inflammation of liver. Post-hepatic jaundice is caused because of what? Obstruction to the flow of bile. So it is called obstructive jaundice. Obstructive jaundice. You understand? So these are the three types of jaundice. So albumin is important for helping in the excretion of metabolic byproducts of RBC metabolism, primarily bilirubin. Alright. Then this bilirubin can go to the kidney. Kidney also will metabolize that. That bilirubin metabolized in the kidney is called urobilin. Urobilin. Yellow color of urine is because of bilirubin getting metabolized in the kidney and converted to urobilin. Alright. Excreted bilirubin into the small intestine is further processed in the intestine and is excreted in the feces, stools as stercobilin. Stercobilin. Alright. If there is constipation, excretion of this is delayed. Stercobilin can get absorbed from the large intestine, can get back into blood. Alright. Stercobilin can get back into blood by absorption. So that will be processed by the kidney, converted to urobilin. More urobilin than what is supposed to be. Urine becomes more yellowish in color. Jaundice. So after this group, RBC is responsible for bilirubin production. Alright. RBC breakdown, hemoglobin, heme metabolism, byproduct of heme metabolism is bilirubin. So albumin important for that. Alright. Globulin and albumin has second role. I told you albumin does two jobs. One is this, help in the elimination of heme metabolism byproducts. The second role is albumin will ensure that the osmotic pressure in the blood is adequate. Albumin is an osmotic substance. See, capillaries are porous. The blood can leak, the fluid from the blood can leak out into capillaries, reducing the volume of blood. You need to have something which will hold blood inside hold the fluid inside the blood vessels. Who will hold it? You need to have osmotic pressure. You need to have osmotic pressure inside the blood vessels, inside the blood. I told you, pressure and potential. Pressure is the ability to catch the fluid, hold back fluid. Osmotic pressure of blood is primarily because of this fellow, albumin. So if you have protein deficiency in your diet, if you don't have enough proteins, if albumin levels in the blood becomes lower, more and more fluid will be leaked out into the tissue space. Part of it will be taken back. If it is a normal leakage, that will be taken back in the form of lymph. and circulated back into blood. I told you at the tissue level, there is lymph draining mechanism. Lymph, whatever is leaked out from the blood vessels into the tissue space, that is tissue fluid. Once it gets into these lymphatic vessels, then you call it lymph. So it gets pushed back to the heart. If there is too much fluid in the tissue space, it is beyond the capacity of the lymphatic vessels to drain everything. Because the rate of drainage should match the rate of leakage. If the rate of leakage is more than the rate of drainage, there will be accumulation of fluid in the tissue space. Yes or no? So if albumin levels are low in the blood is not able to hold fluid. Fluid leaks out more. The water leaks out, serum leaks out more into the tissue space than what is supposed to leak out. There is edema. Edema is what? Fluid in the tissue space. You press, you might have seen, if you press in the shin, press on the shin of the patient, there will be some pitting. You will notice when you press it, you know there is fluid accumulation in the tissue space. That is called edema. Edema is accumulation of fluid in the tissue space. One of the reasons for that is decreased albumin. Kidney disease, kidney failure causes edema. Why? Kidney failure causes edema. One of the major signs of kidney failure is pitting edema in the lower limbs. You press the lower limbs on the bony surface, there is a pit formed, depression. If you do it on your skin, on your bone, it will automatically decay. It will come back to normal structure. But a kidney patient, you press it, it will form a pit. Why? Lot of fluid accumulation has already happened, and it has become more and more hardened. The fluid has become hardened, so pitting. It will not get redistributed easily. Why kidney disease will lead to edema? Edema happens when albumin level is low. Correct? Albumin level is low. There is not enough osmotic pressure inside the blood vessels, so the blood is not able to get retained inside the blood vessels. More leakage, accumulation in the tissue space. How is kidney disease or kidney failure related to that? Kidney is a mechanical filter. Nephrons are mechanical filters. Proteins are not supposed to leak out. You cannot, proteins will not pass through these glomerular filters. To the glomerulus, to the food process, proteins cannot pass. Damage to the food process. The passage becomes bigger, wider, it can allow proteins to pass. Kidney failure can happen when there is damage to this glomerulus. So proteins will start getting leaked out of the kidneys. So if albumin is getting leaked out of the kidneys, what will happen to albumin level in blood? It will decrease. If albumin level goes down, fluid leakage will happen into the tissue space more than what is normal. Fluid leakage is happening normally also because of the pressure and the porousness of the capillaries. But more leakage because of decreased osmotic pressure. Edema. Okay. So important. If you want your body to function normally, you have to ensure that the protein in your diet is adequate. You have to provide enough proteins in your diet. 1 gram per kg body weight is the recommended protein that you need to have in your diet. Second is, you need to have enough micronutrients in your diet. That is why I suggested to all of you, tell your parents to get you multivitamin tablets, multivitamin, multimineral tablets. Proteins you are having enough. Every day you are eating meat. You are eating egg in the morning and afternoon. You are eating dal every day in the afternoon and meat in the evening. So protein adequacy is there. Protein is enough, adequate. Micronutrient deficiency will happen because, as I have noticed, you don't eat enough vegetables and fruits. Partially because not enough vegetables and fruits are being provided. So we have to supplement that. Vitamins and minerals. Minerals are essential for, calcium is required for muscle functioning, potassium is required for heart functioning, Sodium is required for nervous system functioning, nerve conduction. Calcium, potassium, sodium, chloride, all of these and other smaller minerals are required for various other functions. Magnesium is required for RBC production. Copper is required for RBC production. So, normal metabolism, lot of things are dependent on minerals, normal functioning. Vitamins, all the vitamins are coenzymes for many vital enzymes. For many important enzymes, vitamins are coenzymes. So if you ensure in your day-to-day diet, you are supplying your body with enough proteins and micronutrients, your body can take care of its health by itself. Energy deficiency will not happen. We eat a lot of rice, carbohydrates and fats are adequately supplied in Indian diet. Protein deficiency happens in vegetarian diet generally. People who have a mixed diet habit, vegetarian and non-vegetarian habit, protein deficiency is unlikely. Micronutrient deficiency is very common. For that you have to either have a lot of fruits and vegetables and grains in your diet or have a part of it being supplied with supplementation. One multivitamin tablet every day will take it. Alright. See how everything is connected. Albumin is for that. Globulin. There are a class of globulins called immunoglobulins. IgG, IgA, IgM, IgD, IgE. 5 classes of immunoglobulins which will participate in immune systems, immune functions. Immunoglobulins are the antibodies. Immunoglobulins are the antibodies. What we call as antibodies against infections. Those are the immunoglobulins. Fibrinogen is the one which will provide sealing of damage, clot formation. Fibrinogen is responsible for the formation of permanent clots. Platelet is responsible for the formation of temporary clots. The job of platelet is to ensure small leakages that happens inside the body. Capillaries can rupture spontaneously because there is high pressure flow of blood. Capillaries are very thin. Small breakdown of capillaries can happen normally. As we speak, a lot of capillaries in all our bodies will be breaking down. But platelets will go and seal it off. Platelets will go and seal it off, ensuring that there is no leakage of blood. If platelet level goes down, these small damages that happen inside the body will become spots of leakage of blood. Leakage of blood, RBC and all into the space. So that will gradually lead to disruption of circulation, which can lead to death. What is the disease where platelets are very, very important? They are constantly monitored. In which disease you monitor platelets? Hemophilia, okay. Infectious disease. Especially the last 2 months and even now, it's the season for this disease. Which disease? Vector-borne. Our friendly mosquito gives it. Platelet. Dengue. Dengue virus goes and attacks those cells in the bone marrow which produces platelets. You know, RBCs can live up to 90 days. 90 to 120 days is the lifespan of RBC. What is the lifespan of platelets? 7 days. Okay, they die soon. So dengue virus goes and attacks the platelet formation, platelet forming cells. The normal count of platelets is 1.5 to 4 lakhs per deciliter of blood. 1.5 to 4 lakhs. That means every day there are thousands of platelets being getting eliminated, and new platelets are being produced. Dengue virus attacks that. So platelets dying is continuing normally. Platelet production is being affected. What will happen to platelet count? Comes down. Suddenly platelet count can fall. That is the reason. Okay. So people die because of dengue due to platelets not being enough in number to seal off those small rupture in the blood circulation in the blood vessels. So, causing multiple bleeding spots inside the body. Internal bleeding, leading to circulatory failure, shock. Stages of dengue is this: dengue fever, dengue hemorrhagic fever, dengue shock syndrome. First is dengue fever, normal fever like any other viral fever. Platelet is normal. When the person starts experiencing small hemorrhagic spots, some small red spots on the skin, under the tongue, hemorrhagic fever. When internal bleeding becomes so much that circulation is stopped, circulatory failure happens, then it is called dengue shock syndrome. Shock in terms of circulation is circulation getting stopped, or it becoming very sluggish and circulation not happening. Okay. Platelet is for that. Understood? WBCs we will have to deal with in the context of immunity. We'll do that tomorrow and we'll continue.